You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Saving lives by selling collars, scrunchies, and swag. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That's BARKNWAG.com to see the awesome merchandise. Bark and Wag collars and leashes, collar covers, and decorative bandanas are perfect for your pooch. For the owner of the house, we have t-shirts, sweatshirts, long sleeve shirts, hats, and even coasters. We are expanding monthly, so be sure to check back. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise too, so send an email to polly@barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Cindy Myers, animal listener and intuitive coach. Welcome, Cindy.
Hi, Polly.
Welcome back. I wanted to have you back because, one, our listeners just love you, and then two, you have such great animal stories. The stories of the way that you communicate with the animals, their wants, their needs, and how you can help. And I understand you have a few stories to tell us. One is about a horse who was traumatized when being transported.
Yeah, this horse I met during a class that I was teaching at a beautiful farm, and they had alpacas and horses and a number of other animals that we got to practice on. And this guy, I was told that he had been a really amazing horse, a perfect horse for them. Originally he lived in South Dakota, and he was such a perfect horse that somebody decided to buy him because he was just like a perfect horse for a family and kids, and he was just like this bomb-proof horse. He could do anything. And so somebody in California bought him, so he had quite a long transport. And when he got off the transport, he was a totally different horse. He was very wigged out and so extremely agitated and just wild. He was just couldn't be handled. And so they were quite upset. Anyway, the people's daughter happened that originally sold the horse lived in California. And so she quick ran up and got this horse and took him to her place in California. And rehabbed him as best she could for a number of years, and he got a lot better, but he was still quite skittish around the farrier, especially on one side. And they said that he was about 75% to where he was, but still not that totally perfect horse anymore. And so they asked if I could work with him as part of the class. And so I did. I saved him for the end because I felt he would need a little more attention and would be a good example to kind of go over how to clear emotions and everything. And so when we worked with him, and he kept his eyes on me the whole time, through the whole day. Okay. It was very interesting. Anyway, we get to the end, and we start clearing stuff, and it got to the emotion of abandonment, and he wouldn't clear it. And so, which is unusual. The animals tend to let go of the emotions very easily. But this one, we couldn't clear it. And I had been walking a student through the steps to do it, and she couldn't do it. And then I tried to do it, and nope, he wouldn't release that emotion. So I tapped into him, and I got in the communication that he wasn't going to do it, because if he let go of the emotion, then he'd become this perfect horse and he'd be sold, and he did not want to be sold again and get put onto the transport. He also indicated the reason the trauma happened was that during a break when on the transport, where they were let off the transport for a while to get some grazing in and stretch their legs and get off the transport. He didn't want to go back on, I don't believe. And so to force him back on, they probably cattle prodded him because it was one hip. And he told me that he got shot 6 times on the one hip, which was the side they said that he was more skittish about having the farrier. When the farrier came to work on him, he really was agitated on that particular leg. So I cleared it. I asked the people then, once I understood what the issue was, and I asked them, I said, I need to know if this horse is going to stay with you forever, because I won't lie to him and say yes if you intend to ever sell him. And they said, oh, no way, he's ours forever. So I communicated that back to the horse. He then let me release the abandonment emotion. And we were all in tears at that point, because when I released it, he placed his forehead on my forehead as a thank you, which was about one of the most moving experiences of my life, feeling the energy and the sweetness of this horse's energy as he let go of that trauma.
Oh, that's a happy story.
I checked in with them a few months later to see how he was doing, and they said he's back to being the 100% bomb-proof horse, and he has no issues anymore getting his feet worked on by the farrier or anything. So I was quite pleased with that.
Oh, well, that's a great story. Well, I'm glad that the family's going to keep the horse.
Yes, I would have a hard time. If it was me, I'd have a hard time giving him up after all that they put into getting him rehabilitated, and he's well loved. So he's there. He's there with them forever.
I mean, you think of these poor animals that have no idea what's going on when they're loaded into a car or a trailer.
Right. Well, I work with people sometimes, breeders and different, I too have animals that I sell occasionally and go off. I have an alpaca farm. And so I always communicate to them what's going on as best I can. They may understand, they may not, but there's stuff we can do for them if we're transitioning homes. Rescue animals, even if they're coming into a new home, they have no idea what's going on. It's all new to them, new sights, new sounds, new smells. So, and they don't know if it's forever, especially if they've been in a number of foster care homes. So being able to communicate to them exactly what's going on, that if this is their new forever home, that they can adjust to it and help release whatever old baggage is that they may have come with, and just, it's a valuable tool. It just helps them accelerate transitioning into the new home so much faster by getting rid of the trapped emotions and communicating to them what's going on.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back with more animal stories.
All righty. I'd love to come back on.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.